Good evening or afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another weather forecast here by Agent Weather Forecast. And it's going to be another update. In this video, we're going to be looking at the overall upcoming pattern for this weekend for the Northeast, as we're going to be looking at for a deep cold air moving in by the late weekend, as we're going to be watching out for winter storm Carrie, which actually just got named not too long ago for New England, which is going to bring in a lot of snow, possibly up to a foot in some areas. It's going to be looking at snow for Boston, Portland, Bangor, Albany, Burlington, as well. Manchester, all those general areas from the Great Lakes towards the coastal New England area. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get in the forecast. So right now, here's the latest look at the National Weather Service, and here's the overall look at the winter weather alerts that have so far been issued across the Northeast, stretching all the way from Lake Erie all the way up towards the upper portion of the New England coast in Maine. But in these purplish kind of colors, we do have those winter weather advisories. That's where we're going to be seeing a little bit less snow compared to those warnings and those advisories. We're going to be seeing kind of minimal conditions, a few inches, but not going to be anything too crazy, at least as of now. But we do have those winter weather advisories for much of the state of New York, including Albany, the Adirondack, Syracuse, that general area. It is not really including Lake Huron except for the Watertown area, and it is not including New York City Metro or anything like that, nor is it including Long Island. And then these go as far south as portions of north central Pennsylvania, where we could still see some snow again. It's going to be a very minor system. It's not going to have a huge like snowstorm or a huge snow deep cold air behind it. It's going to be kind of just a fast moving system, so it's going to be pretty minimal, which is why we don't have anything too crazy when it comes to alerts. But we do as well have these advisories going all the way towards the Boston area, across Massachusetts, portions of Connecticut, all the way up towards Maine. And then we have those winter storm warnings across all the state of New Hampshire, western Maine, and as far just the general portion of Vermont, including the eastern half. So that's where we're gonna be seeing a lot of that heavier snow. I wouldn't doubt these warnings do make their way further towards west towards New York and even portions of northern Massachusetts. And I think these advisories could possibly make their way slightly further south. But let's go ahead and get in the overall setup. So the first thing we're gonna be looking at is the latest 18Z ARRR, since the 18Z does go 48 hours out. Not I was about to say 84, but that's not right. It's 48 hours out in the 18Z run for the ARRR. So this is gonna be slightly a little bit old since it is the 18Z, and we have to wait to the ZRZ to get in their 24-hour run, and that's obviously not gonna come out until a decent hour or so, and I wouldn't be able to post in an hour. But we are going to be seeing a cold front rushing in, so anything kind of east that cold front is we're going to start seeing some rain. We do have a slight risk, I believe, for the general area of the lower Mississippi River Basin. I believe we also have a 2% tornado risk, but as you see, along this cold front, we're going to be seeing pretty much in those areas that are going to be along that warm conveyor belt and that warm advection. That's where we're going to be seeing pretty much some pretty we're going to be seeing some pretty much severe weather, as well as some pretty intense rain and flooding threats along the eastern half of that cold front, or along the cold front itself. However, as we now go a little bit towards the overnight hours into tomorrow, early morning, we're going to be seeing an area of low pressure. Again, it's going to kind of be following. It's going to kind of be tracking northeast, and we are going to be seeing a cold front making its way from the north central, making its way towards the Great Lakes. So areas kind of north of that low pressure, anything northeast of the low pressure, could start mixing in the overnight hours tonight, from rain to possibly ice and as well as some snow. That's going to kind of occur within, I say, the next maybe possibly 9, maybe 7 to 9 hours. Again, like I said, it's slightly behind, so it says 14, but it's probably going to be a lot less than that. So in that far northern areas of that low pressure, we're actually going to be seeing that surface colder advection. We're going to be seeing some pretty cold air well below freezing. And as well, a lot of moisture with it. That's where we're gonna start seeing that snow. So because see some snow developing across southern or the lower half of Michigan along that freezing line, as well as same thing across north central Illinois, and then I'll kind of stretch all the way towards New York. And as we go now to tomorrow early morning, at this point it's gonna become a lot more widespread. So here's the overall. You can kind of tell the cold front's gonna be. Oops, that's the wrong thing. You can kind of tell the cold front's gonna be somewhere stretching down this general area at this point by tomorrow early morning, and that's where areas north are gonna be experiencing that cold air. And then as this low pressure now tracks further off the coast, or at least closer to the coast, um, we're gonna start to see now this cold air following that front itself. So we're gonna be seeing some freezing temperatures make their way a lot further towards the coast than if this were to track further to the north, like along the Great Lakes. But since this is going to be dipping a little bit further to the south, we're going to be seeing a chance for any rain to possibly get to anything to sleet to ice as far south as possibly northern Rhode Island and portion of the north central Connecticut. However, it's not going to act as a nor'easter. So the reasoning why it's going to kind of avoid all the coastal areas, including Foxborough, or not coastal areas, Foxborough isn't coastal, but Cape Cod, Newport, Long Island, New York City. The reason why it's going to be avoiding those areas is because it's still going to be pretty warm across these general areas. It's going to be definitely pretty warm as well. We're going to be seeing pretty much a lack of moisture. A lot of that moisture is going to kind of stay kind of areas north of that low pressure or anywhere from along to north of that low pressure. But here's going to be the main area of snow, really heavy snow across the New England area as well, across Worcester, across the Manchester, Burlington area as well. Really, really heavy snow across portions there of the Watertown as well off Lake Huron. And as we now go towards 7 o'clock, you can kind of tell this rain's not budging at all. I mean, it's not giving out at all. Like, it's going to be pretty warm across the coastal areas. It's just not going to convert to snow. Really, you can just see how stubborn it is. So Boston, you guys are going to be in a really tough position. If you live, for example, in Worcester or anywhere just west of Boston, you may get some good snow. But if you're like anywhere east or actually in Boston, there's a chance you guys could possibly get very, very little, because that's where that freezing line is gonna that's where that freezing line is gonna practically be in place. And you can kind of tell some freezing rain could possibly make its way in as well. Some sleet can make its way in, which is definitely not something you want. But that's definitely gonna be a possibility. So if you're like in the Cape Cod area, if you're in the actual coast of New England, like Rhode Island, Connecticut, and hoping for snow, this is not going to be the storm. It's going to be specifically centered for the Great Lakes and the upper New England and Appalachian. And it should move out by very quick move. Like I said, it should move out by the same time, probably next, I'd say the next 30 to 36 hours. It should be out of its way. Let's now go ahead and get a look at the overall NAM 3 kilometer. Very similar scenario. Here's the latest 18Z NAM, and this is actually the latest NAM. So there you can kind of see these storms developing. Going to be seeing some good convection developing along that cold front. And then as we go towards as we go early tomorrow morning, you're going to start seeing that snow showers as well. Going to be seeing some freezing rain developing across southern Michigan and upper Illinois. And that's where that freezing line is going to kind of really develop. And then as we now go towards tomorrow midday, this is going to see a steepening low pressure. You're going to be seeing a lot more cold air catching up with this moisture. So a lot of it's going to be really bringing some good snow for Toronto, London, and portions there of Ontario. And then eventually it's going to make its way towards lower Quebec, and as well can make its way towards as well portions there of upper New England. However, the NAM 3 kilometer does have this freezing line go slightly further south, getting towards possibly the Hartford area, but it's going to definitely still be a big ice threat. I mean, this is definitely going to be a pretty big ice threat with sleet and freezing rain all across the freezing line. It's gonna be really warm in these mid levels, so that's why it's going to be such a big ice maker, because right along that freezing line, we're going to be seeing some. We are either going to be seeing some stubborn EMLs, or we are going to be seeing some warm noses, somewhere between 850 to 700 millibars. So this is going to allow for that snow that you probably see falling in the highest stratosphere or the mid stratosphere across these areas. However, as we get in the warm noses around 700 millibars, the lower stratosphere is going to turn into ice, and then it'll kind of stay slightly above freezing for the rest of the way all the way to the surface. So that's why it's going to be such a big ice maker, because of these warm noses. Over anywhere kind of, I say, north of Massachusetts, you just draw a line north of Massachusetts. Oops, that's not what I want. Just like that, that's where you're going to definitely be seeing that really good snow. So if you're in far northern Massachusetts, or if you're near Pittsfield, you do have a pretty good chance. But if you're in Boston, you are definitely going to have to get really lucky to see anything necessarily. Let's look at the overall temperatures, though. So here's the latest ARRR 18Z. So obviously pretty warm today across these same areas. Going to be seeing, in some cases, we saw 60s across Long Island as well, seeing pretty warm resemblance to that ridge. However, as we go down to tomorrow morning, still going to be pretty I say warm for these areas. Going to be kind of sim spot to below freezing. That's going to kind of remain to the highest elevations, but towards really tomorrow morning across Midwest is going to stay pretty cold. That's where you're going to start to see that these storms, or not these storms, but this ice and as well snow developing early tomorrow morning. Going to be just 30, maybe 32, maybe some spots of 34. But you get the gist of it. We are going to be seeing anywhere from freezing rain to snow. And then as we now go towards tomorrow around 2 o'clock, you're still seeing that warm air pretty much across New England. I mean, it's definitely getting colder as this cold front makes its way, but at this point, the actual cold front itself is going to be around down here. So that's where by Saturday afternoon, you're going to be seeing that rain all across the southeast. There's that low pressure and all that snow's going to stay across those areas in that cold air. So here's kind of the overall freezing line. So here's, I'd say, the freezing line somewhere around here is probably the most visible freezing line you could I know it's not the best drawing, so that's why a lot of the snow is going to stay along either Lake Huron or Lower Ontario, and it really won't make its way to a big difference by until really tomorrow evening, where these temperatures actually really set in. Now we'll be seeing widespread 20s. But look, these areas in Hartford, these areas in lower Albany and lower New York and coastal, some portions of coastal Rhode Island, Long Island are still in the 50s at this point. So this is why it's definitely going to be pretty warm. And this cold it really won't set until the day after, which is definitely the worst type of scenario or timing. And then here's the overall track. So like I said, I'm going to start starting from all the way from Illinois all the way up towards the Nova Scotia area and eventually far into the Atlantic. I'm going to be seeing some pretty minimal snow accumulations across lower Michigan and as well north central Illinois, as well north central Indiana, but we could still see a decent 2 to probably 3 inches lucky at best for areas near the Lansing area, near Ann Arbor. Possibly Detroit could possibly get some decent snow, 3 inches. Well, could possibly get a surprising maybe inch or 2 inches, possibly 3 inches for Chicago. Could definitely see some that lake really going to be helping. They're going to be seeing a rather warm lake, so could definitely see some additional lake effect snow across that area. And then, of course, as this amplifies and this cold air does definitely catch up, and then that's where we're going to be seeing that more higher totals across the Northeast. So we're going to be seeing a lot of these areas in these warnings, like I said. I do think these warnings could possibly make their way toward far eastern New York near Albany and the Adirondacks along the Vermont border. So we could possibly see anywhere from 8 to 10 inches across that area, and then in some areas across Vermont and New Hampshire could get spot over 10 and 12 inches. But you can kind of tell it's drawing a pretty significant line between the Boston area. I mean, Boston's definitely going to be an interesting scenario. I mean, I'll show you guys a detailed map of Boston, so you guys can see. But if you're near Worcester, Pittsfield, you guys definitely have a lot higher confidence. But look at the overall sleet accumulations, though. Definitely going to be a really big ice threat. I mean, we're going to be seeing ice accumulations all the way from Illinois across the same track except further south. See, now Boston's going to be an ice threat. Rhode Island's going to be an ice threat. North central Pennsylvania's going to be an ice threat. Because the accumulations as high as possibly 2 inches across lower Michigan and as well Indiana. But if you look at the NAM 3 kilometer, I believe they have a lot more intense ice than the HBR. And look at the freezing rain. It's going to be a little bit less, but still going to get freezing rain probably as high as a 3 or at least 3/4 of an inch, which is way too high. But let's go to a detailed map of Boston, because Boston's right on this. Really, it's a really tough situation here. But if we look at Boston, look at that. Like if you're, like I said, if you're just west of Boston, you're gonna be seeing probably maybe anywhere from 3 to 5 inches. But if you're like in Boston or just east, nothing. It's gonna be right along the Boston area. So this is definitely a really tough scenario for forecast. And if you look at the overall NAM 3 kilometer, a lot less accumulations for Illinois, maybe a trace or so, but still having possibly nearly an inch for Detroit. And then you see that really, really intense snow across the higher elevations could possibly get over 2 feet. But I really want to see that sleet totals. Like I said, a lot higher sleet totals across the NAM, specifically in the higher elevate or in the higher populated areas, getting as high as nearly 3 inches of sleet, which is way too much as well. Going to be seeing some dangerous travel. And then going to be seeing probably up to as high as an inch of freezing rain across some spots in New York and as well Massachusetts. But if we go back to the overall snow accumulations, Boston does get a little bit more, I'd say. It does take it a little further south, but definitely not what you'd want. Maybe like a trace at best. So Boston, you guys are in the best scenario here, but if you're in western Massachusetts or the higher elevation in the Appalachians, you guys definitely have a pretty good shot. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.